Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Legal Paige podcast. Today I am talking with Jenni Maroney of Jenni Maroney Photography, and we are going into all the things about newborn photography. You're listening to the Legal Paige podcast, where we chat about life and business with a legal twist. I'm Paige, attorney and photographer helping online businesses and creatives tackle their business dreams without breaking out in hives. No more legal mumbo jumbo. This podcast features simple, bite-sized advice that'll have you legally legit in no time. Are you ready? Let's get started. So Jenni and I met in 2018 during the Jenna Kutcher Mastermind group and have stayed close friends ever since. She is one of my dearest colleagues, you guys. I've traveled with her. I just love on her so much. And Jenni, though, has unparalleled experience as a newborn photographer with over 20 years of experience. Jenni's signature mark in newborn photography is all about shooting unposed. Her natural way of taking baby photos really captures the essence of littles in all of their tininess and ensures that parents don't stress out during their session. She now teaches newborn photographers across the country how to do unposed newborn photography through her in-person workshops, group coaching, and online courses. She's a strong coffee sipper, lover of Prosecco, passport stamp enthusiast, and lives in Boulder, Colorado with her husband and 2 rainbow babies. Today, we're going into how she shoots unposed newborn photography, and we're talking about the Legal Paige's newborn photography contract, which she helped create. And by the end of the episode, Jenni's going to share some of her biggest legal lessons. Alrighty, let's get to it, Legal Pagers. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into the Legal Paige podcast today. I am so excited because my really good friend for the past couple of years, Jenni Maroney, is here to talk all about newborn photography. Jenni, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
So you guys, I know that I told you a little bit in the intro about Jenni and I's background and how we met in 2018. We've stayed really good friends ever since, but obviously Jenni is expert in all things newborn photography. She has been in the photography industry for over a decade, but I know her really well. However, I'm sure lots of you tuning in do not, or you may follow her, but you don't know all of the intimate details about why she's so awesome. So Jenni, I would love it if you could introduce yourself to all of the Legal Pagers listening.
Sure. Thanks again. I'm super excited about this. So my name is Jenni Maroney. I'm an unposed newborn photographer and educator based out of Boulder, Colorado. And I help female photographers build successful and fulfilling businesses from the ground up, from scratch. So I started out in the industry just like everybody else. I would take on any client that was willing to pay me. I did weddings, sometimes 2 every single weekend. I did families, I did babies, I did headshots, pets, commercial. I even did aerial ones, Paige. Someone asked me to go up on a plane and do some photography. Sure, I'll try that. So I literally would take on any job that came my way. But it was at the end of that first year when I was running my numbers and I realized I barely even broke even. And I was working hundreds of hours. It was insane. And I knew something had to change. So that's when I cracked the code and I knew I needed to find my niche. I knew I needed to find something that I was really passionate about. And I couldn't just dabble in a little bit of everything. I really had to figure out who it was I wanted to serve and where they were. So that's when I really honed in on working with babies and children, and I really wanted to do it in a more natural way. So that's when I decided to go against the posy baby in a bucket style and try something new. And I started offering, simple and natural, more baby-led newborn photography, and it has completely blown up in the best possible way. It's been really incredible to watch my business shift over the years and be able to teach other photographers how I did it.
So when did you start? How many years ago was it?
So I graduated photography school. I know I'm one of those weirdos that actually went to photography school. And I graduated 22 years ago. I know I'm totally dating myself right now, but I graduated from photography school in Massachusetts, and I moved back to my teeny tiny town in Vermont where the cows outnumber the people. And I set up shop, and I thought I was good to go. And I realized I didn't want to live there anymore. I'd lived there most of my whole life. And so I traveled up and down the East Coast working for other photographers. And I ended up running a huge photography studio in the South for a couple years, doing wedding photography. And then I moved back to Vermont and helped run another photography that was baby and family focused. And then I moved my own business to Colorado 12 years ago.
Okay. So 12 years that you've been in Colorado, and I know that now you definitely have a name for yourself in Colorado, and you primarily only do newborn sessions. Is that correct now?
Yes. So, but I have a really hard time saying no to those families that I started with when they had babies. And
right.
So I still photograph a lot of those families that their babies are now much older, but yes, I would say 90% of my work is newborn photography.
And I know that you're a mom to two littles. So when in that process did you become a mom, and how has that really changed, the way that you approach your newborn photography business?
Great question. So Miles was born almost 8 years ago, and I was still doing wedding photography at the time. And I'd gotten to the point in my career where I had always wanted to be a destination wedding photography. It sounds so fancy, right? And so I'd gotten to that point finally, and I thought I had checked the box on the paper, and I was like, all right, I'm flying all over the world doing these destination weddings. And Miles came along, and I remember he was 5 weeks old, barely 5 weeks old. We were on a flight across the country. We were headed to Philadelphia to photograph this wedding. And he was so upset. And I looked over at my husband with tears in my eyes. And I remember saying to Mark, I don't want to do this anymore. And he said, you don't have to. And that's when I realized, I don't need to be doing wedding photography and newborn photography. I could solely focus on newborn photography and stay at home on the weekends with my family and my newborn. So things really changed for me then. And I also realized at that point that I wanted to photograph babies in a way that was more natural, in a way that I saw my own son sleeping and acting and doing the things that he did. And I didn't want to be putting him in ridiculous poses or outfits or, different props and that sort of thing. I wanted to just photograph him being himself. So that's when my business really pivoted.
Gotcha. Well, it makes so much sense too. And for all of you that are wedding photographers tuning in, or family photographers, or people who just like burn the candle at both ends when you start a family, and then you're also trying to run a photography business where people and clients assume that you are on call 24/7 and that you should be shooting on the weekends. And it's really hard to balance that. Jenni, I know from you and knowing you for the past couple of years, like how awesome it has been for you to be able to create boundaries through your newborn photography business. And also not just you, but other newborn photographers that I know, like when they became a mom and obviously had to implement some more work-life balance into their photography business, it's really a great way to go for people, is to really kind of niche down into newborn birth photography, Fresh 48. Obviously, when you start doing birth photography, you're a little bit more on call again. But newborn photography as a whole is like, you can set your schedule and you can be very, very clear and concrete with that schedule versus weddings, which are usually on weekends. So that's really, really cool that, you learn that by Miles coming into the world, and then it's just expanded from there. So before we kind of get into your specific approach on newborn photography and why so many people are flooding to you for all of your expertise on baby-led natural newborn photography, I have a couple questions regarding like why you do the setup that you do. And I know, Jenni, we've sat down and had this conversation before about like lifestyle newborn, like at people's houses versus in a studio, and still being able to do baby-led natural newborn photography in a studio. So can you kind of tell me the difference between the two and educate people on why you prefer one or the other?
Yeah, sure. So Newborn photography, the baby-led style, can be done in a client's home. Absolutely. I prefer to do it in my own studio, mostly because I am a mom to 2 young kids and my studio is the whole first floor of my home. So I can do a session and then run out the door and go grab the kids from school. So it may be out of laziness that I do it the way I do it, or convenience, you should say. But it can be done in either. So lifestyle photography is more going into the client's home, using their natural light from their windows, photographing in the nursery and using their own blankets and incorporating all the details that make them, and getting the shots in the master bedroom with the whole family sitting on the bed and all of that stuff, which is awesome and great. I do teach photographers too, though, that you can bring a beanbag into a client's home and use the stretchy white rayon fabric to create that seamless white background and photograph babies under, say, a bay window in the living room or whatnot, and get that same look that I produce in my studio. So it can be done in clients' homes. For me, clients come into my studio. Like I said, it's in my home and I have a prop bed. So I can still do those family on the bed photos, but it's primarily just really, really, really simple. So it's family up against the white background, holding the baby, looking down at the baby, interacting with the baby. And then sibling and baby, and then newborn. We finish up with the newborn on the beanbag under a big window in my studio. So it can be done in either location. And if you don't have a studio, you can absolutely still make this work by going into clients' homes.
Gotcha. So yeah, really preferred based on, photographer to photographer. Sure. So whatever your setup is and how you work best as a photographer. And then how would you suggest people, cause, as some of you may know this, but I do lifestyle newborn sessions on the side because I just have 80 million side jobs apparently. But I still enjoy it. I only go into people's homes. I don't have a studio set up at my house. I actually only do that for boudoir photo shoots in a guest bedroom that I have. But I have learned, particularly like boudoir sessions, people want to come to me because they want like a place that's safe, secure, like that's really there's a bedroom set up that they can, express themselves. And also that's like secretive, right? Because lots of times these are like a secret present for someone.
Right.
And then for lifestyle sessions, I've learned that some clients that ask me, I don't want to bring like a baby into my home. I know that is a boundary I've set for myself. It would probably give me more anxiety to have them here versus like for you, it's an easier setup. It's more seamless. When clients have an issue though with you coming into their house, okay? So say that is how you set up your newborn photography business, is it's a lifestyle session, it's in your client's home. What would you say to people? This is the last question I have for you. What would you say to people regarding how to deal with clients and communicating with clients on why it's often best to do it in their home if you have some objections from your clients?
Yeah, sure. I've had clients ask, so, 95% of my clients here in Boulder, Denver area are going to come to my studio. And I've just heard them be like, I don't want you coming to my house. I don't want to have to stress about cleaning home. My dogs are crazy. I'm a new mom. I'm still trying to figure things out. And maybe my house isn't well lit, or maybe my house isn't all white like your studio, and I really prefer that look. And that's why they'll choose to come to me. For my clients that are out of state, because I do still have out of state clients that will fly me in when they have a baby. So I was just in Seattle for one of our mutual friends, Paige and I, for Sarah. I was in New York City with Emma. Right. I do fly around for those. And of course, that's going to be in their home. There's nothing I can do about that. But I think that for families that want to incorporate that really personal touch, I think it is really important to have it in their own home, because then they'll remember all those little details that, as a mom myself, I know that I've forgotten until I jog my memory with a photo. So, looking back on my own kids' nurseries, they're both out of cribs now. They're both in big kid beds. So I would love to see photos of us holding the baby in the nursery and remembering, oh my gosh, remember that little book we used to read, or those booties on the bureau, or, the dresser, that sort of thing, the bedding, all those things that as new parents, especially new moms, we invest so much time, energy, and money into creating the perfect space for our new little ones to bring home to. I think it's really important to document those. So if you are a photographer that goes into other clients' homes, I strongly encourage you to get those detail shots as well, just for the parents to remember it by.
Oh, I love that. That is such a good point, especially for Jenni. I am not a mom. So like, I don't get that. And so when you have that perspective and you've worked with so many moms being a newborn photographer for over a decade, it's like, it makes so much sense. So that is a really good way for us to communicate with clients that may be like hesitant about us coming into their home. And then you can be like, yeah, but here are all the benefits to it. And I've done this and I don't know what you would suggest, but sometimes I just say like, just clean one room. Like if you are good at your job as a newborn photographer, you should be able to get everything in like just the nursery if they're worried about cleaning the whole house, right?
Absolutely. Yep. I always say, don't stress, don't hire a house cleaner to come that day specifically. Like, do not worry about that. I'm not here. I'm a mom myself and I understand there's not time to do that when you have a newborn. So I'm not here to judge. I'm not here. I don't care about how many dishes are in your sink or the last time you vacuumed your carpet. I seriously could care less. I'm here to photograph you guys as you guys in this stage of life. So just try to tidy up, maybe move the hamper or make the bed, that sort of thing. And I've showed up to so many homes before in the past when I used to do it in home where it's not done. And I will be the first to go make their bed for them. I could care less. I would just want it to look pretty and tidy in the photos, but it doesn't have to be perfect because that's not real life. Perfect doesn't.
Totally. Yeah. And I've been in places where there's like toys everywhere. And yeah, like who cares? You're not photographing the dirty dishes in the sink. So just tell them like, don't worry about that. Like if you want a bed shot, make your bed. That's all you have to do. And don't worry about the extraneous things that are around the bedroom because I'm not, I can like crop in and make sure that I'm just getting the important shot that you want with the bed.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, those were just the first little like preliminary questions that I had, but I would love for you to now kind of jump into baby-led newborn photography. Okay. What is this? Why is it something that you teach other people? And how have you seen it be incredibly beneficial to clients who have newborn babies and are able to like have a very low-key, stress-free, and genuinely wonderful experience with their newborn photography?
Great question. So it really changed for me when I had my own kiddo because I realized that some of the things I was expecting of my clients were pretty unrealistic until I became a mom myself and realized, oh, that's not going to happen. So, I used to, just like every other newborn photographer, when you first start, you have those 4-hour sessions that you leave with the backache. The parents seem stressed out. The baby hasn't slept. Everybody's exhausted. And everyone's wondering, did we get anything good out of that whole experience? So I knew that something needed to change. And I had done that way for a couple of years. And I was like, gosh, I can really only do one session a day and only a couple of weeks before I would get burnt out and like kill my back. So, and I could just see the look in these parents' eyes. It did not look like they were having fun, and that was the last thing I wanted of them because I know they're sleep deprived. I know they're exhausted with a new baby at home. The last thing I want is to make that worse, So once I had my own kiddos, I needed to find a way to make these sessions more efficient, more enjoyable for everybody. So I started to think, how do babies best sleep? What do they need to be able to comfortably fall asleep quickly once arriving at the studio or me arriving at their home? And once I became a mom, these were no-brainers for me. But before being a mom, I had no idea. So I realized the baby needs to be kept awake for at least a full hour prior to the session so that they're really, really sleepy because I do my sessions in the first 3 weeks of life, typically between day 10 and 14. I think that's the sweet spot. So if they're kept awake for a full hour before the session, their sleep cycles are typically like an hour or so on, an hour or so off, back and forth. So if they're awake for that full first hour before the session, I arrive or they arrive at my studio and the baby's exhausted. They're ready to sleep. So that makes everybody's job so much easier, right? And then I always say, give the baby a full feeding before you arrive at the studio with a full burping. And please arrive early so that you don't feel rushed. Because if you're just topping the baby off with a little bit of milk, they're not going to have a full belly and they're not going to sleep for a very long time. They're going to wake, they're going to stir, they're going to fuss and be hungry and start rooting. So I realized that, to make this more efficient, I needed to give my clients some guidelines here. And at first I was a little hesitant. I was like, oh, I'm a new mom. I don't know if I should be telling these other moms like how to do this session. But then I realized I am the expert. I am the photography expert here. And now I'm a new mom and I can relate to these people. So it was so much easier once I realized that everybody wants guidance. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. But if I don't know, then I don't know. So I would tell them to keep the baby awake. I would tell them to do full feeding and a full burping. I would also tell them simple things like, arrive at the studio with a baby in just a solid white white short sleeve onesie with a diaper underneath it, so that when we're pulling the baby from the car seat, we're not also pulling that onesie over their head and having to redress them and wake them and all of that. We can just more seamlessly pull the baby from the car seat and go right into the session. And then also, simple things that I wasn't aware of before I was a mom is don't, try to avoid spicy foods if you're nursing, so that you don't potentially give the baby an upset stomach. Bring a pacifier along if they're using a pacifier. Keep your studio or have them turn the heat up to at least 80, 82. Babies can't regulate their own body temperature at that age. So, and because they're going to be nudie most of the time for the session, I want them to be comfortable and safe. So turning that heat up is crucial. A cold home or a cold studio is the first way to wake a baby and not be able to get it to cooperate. So now my whole goal is to have these sessions be under 2 hours. Oftentimes my sessions are right at the hour and a half mark, and everybody is so much happier. Baby sleeps the whole time. Mom and dad get to chill and just watch. Dad is pumped because he gets to get out of there and it wasn't too stressful for him. And I teach this in my in-person retreats and in my masterminds, and I have a newborn posing course. But I think it's really important to only have a few, I don't like calling them poses, but setups, if you will. So for me, I teach 5 simple poses where it can result in 40 plus images for your gallery. And 5 simple poses means that you're moving the baby a lot less, risking them waking up, keeping them more comfortable, keeping mom and dad and sibling much happier. It's just more efficient as the photographer and makes your job so much easier. And then you can get them in and out in under 2 hours. So my whole goal is efficiency and keeping the clients happy, keeping the baby safe and comfortable and sleepy, and just making everyone's job a lot easier and more enjoyable.
That's awesome. Everything you said. One of the things that stuck out to me the most, Jenni, is when you said you don't want to have a new mom walk away from the experience and think, did we get any good photos out of that hour? Yeah. And you don't want them to be stressed and thinking about that. Like, not only do they have enough to think about as a new mom, they have paid money. Probably a newborn photography isn't cheap. Yeah. And I think it's an investment for parents, and it's an investment they will make. Yeah. That is the best part about newborn photography, is they are happy to fork over some funds to get beautiful photos of their new baby. That is priceless because that they can only capture that moment in time by hiring someone to do so. And they have enough to think about. And then that just also rolls into what you said, Jenni, they have enough to worry about. And so being able to educate them on how to have a very, very simple session. Yeah. And I love how you have kind of flipped the script on newborn photography. And for all of you tuning in that are like, we have to get that photo with the baby with their hands on their heads. And it is so stressful to get that photo for parents. And what would you say to somebody like a client or even a photographer that's asking, how do I respond to this client that's saying, I want all these photos? How can we still book them as a client, but educate them on that is probably not what you're looking for, because here's what's going to happen.
Right. So before I ever book a client, I get on the phone with them for a pre-session consultation is what I call it. It's usually just 10 quick minutes on the phone. I just want to be sure that I'm the right fit for my client, and also that they're the right fit for me. After 20 plus years in the industry, I've realized I don't have to take every client that comes my way.
Right.
It wasn't that way when I first started out. Disclaimer, I would take any job that I could get because I had to pay the bills. But I'm at a point in my career now where I realize that now that I'm niched down, I am able to make sure that I'm the right fit for them and they're the right fit for me. So I always say, have you had a chance to review my website? As you can see, and I again reiterate, my style is very simple. It's baby-led posing. Your baby's going to run the show. So if you follow the tips and suggestions I send you before the session, the baby will likely be comfortable and sleep the whole time, and it's a stress-free session. If you don't, we'll be spending more time getting the baby to sleep and less time photographing the baby, therefore less images. And they always follow the rules once I say that. But I also say, I just want to be sure that that it's going to be all white backdrops. It's going to be no props. It's going to be very minimal posing, baby-led posing. If you're looking for the posy stuff, which is fine, it's just not my style. I have other photographers in the area that I can refer you to. It's just, you're not going to get your baby in a bucket in my studio. So I just want to be clear that you like what I offer and that I'm the right fit for your family. And always, if they say, oh, I was looking for XYZ poses I saw on Pinterest, they thank me for being honest, because ultimately in the end, nobody's going to get what they want, myself included, if I don't make that clear up front. So I think it's really important to educate your clients as to what you offer, what you can serve them with, and what you don't. Like that's equally as important, if not more. Let them know what you don't offer.
Yeah, exactly. So setting that expectation from the beginning, and also being very clear with people that I know, like having 5 setups to get 40 images, and then just think if you're like able, if the baby's doing really well and you're able to get 10 setups in, and then double the amount of images you can give your clients and or have them choose from. That is so much better to some parents than just 5 to 10 photos that were extremely stressful to get. And the baby was not happy, and the dad was stressing out, and the mom was trying to like nurse the whole time and get the baby to sleep. And like, just think about the difference for parents. Yeah. And so also being able to educate them on that, like, do you want more beautiful natural photos to choose from, or are those really important to you? And if they are, then they're not your client. But also being, again, it's just like educating them on the experience that they're going to get.
Absolutely. And the other thing too, that I didn't realize before I was a mom, is how much babies can feed off of our energy. So and I know that sounds wooey, but it's so true. Like if I come into the studio, if a new mom comes into the studio and she's stressing that the baby's not cooperating and doing all the things that she's expecting the baby to do, when I go in with no expectations, I'm like, she's a baby who's 10 days old. She's going to do what she wants to do. So, we can all prepare as much as we want, but it's again up to the baby. So if the mom's stressing out, baby's going to feed off that and be less likely to sleep. And I actually had a dad come up to me the other day and say, I would have paid double, and my sessions are not inexpensive. He said, I would have paid double to, what we actually paid because of that. Like what you just did in that experience, I was able to see my wife relax and enjoy watching you photograph our baby. You got our sibling who's 3 and not always super cooperative to have a good time and get genuine smiles with their newborn baby. I hate being photographed as a dad, and you made my job so easy. I would have paid twice as much. So it's just nice knowing that what I'm providing my clients with and what other photographers are able to do for their clients, it just needs to be stress-free. That's the most important thing. You have to keep your clients in mind.
And that is the best compliment you can get. I love getting that with like guys after engagement sessions, but getting that from a new dad is probably the best compliment you could ever get. This episode is proudly sponsored by the Legal Paige Contract Shop. Need to ensure your contract is actually protecting your business? I've got you, friend. The TLP shop features 150 plus contracts, clauses, and bundles, and multiple resources to help you modify and alter the templates to your specific business needs. In less than 5 minutes, you'll be able to download, adjust, and get your new legit contract ready to go for your clients. Get your contract template and clauses now at thelegalpageshop.com. Okay, so baby-led newborn photography. Everyone, if you haven't checked Jenni out, just at Jenni Maroney. She also will link all of this in the podcast as well for how you can contact her. But one of the things that I would suggest you check out, if you're interested in anything Jenni has to talk about, she has an entire course on newborn posing in a natural baby-led way. And Jenni, it's not like a long course either. I know that when you were promoting it, you were like, this is simple. And like, it should be simple to learn so that it's simple to do as a newborn photographer. So that is one of my favorite parts about your courses is it's not going to take like 12 hours to take this course, because who has that time anyway, right? Like lots of newborn photographers are moms too. So anyway, go check her out. Now that we've talked about posing and why it's so important, and to have efficient sessions for the baby and the parents and potentially the siblings, if there is some, what would you suggest for educating moms on then after this, like what to do after the session? So some people call it in-person sales, but I think for you, it's more all about, what it's like to be a mom, right? And so how can we ease the stress even more after they have this session of getting photos in their hands and ensuring that it gets on their walls of their new child?
Absolutely. And excuse me, I think that's a fabulous question, Paige, because as a mom myself, and this is so embarrassing to admit, but I'm going to for the sake of this podcast, but we have 2 kiddos and people come into our home and they're like, oh my gosh, he's so cute. Is he your only one? I'm like, no, we have a second. I just haven't printed any photos. And they're like, oh, is she a baby? I'm like, no, she's 3.5. It's horrible, Paige. I'm a photographer. There's no excuse for this. But as a mom, I can relate to this. If I just deliver you a link to Pixieset to download your images or Dropbox or whatever, and you're going to sit on them. I'll tell you that right now. I know that from a wedding photographer standpoint and as a bride. 10 years ago, we got married. Our photographer was a friend. She thought she was doing us a favor. She delivered thousands of images. I've opened that disc once. I don't even have a disk drive in my computer anymore. They're collecting dust somewhere. I don't even know where. And drum roll, please, we printed 3 images from all those thousands. So the last thing I want to do is overwhelm my newborn clients who are already stressed out and sleep deprived and not sure they're doing this whole newborn mom thing right, is by providing hundreds of images. So my sessions, I only provide 30 to 35 images. They come back a week later for a viewing session. And this is no surprise to them. They know before we've ever signed a contract or picked up a camera exactly what the timeline looks like and what to expect from a session with me. So they know that during the pre-session consultation. So they know that a week later, because I should back up. I only collect the session fee prior to the session. So it's not a retainer. It's a session fee for my time and talent. It includes the session time itself and then the post-production editing hours or time. And then it includes an in-person sales session, which I call a viewing session for my clients. And they come back a week or so later to my studio. I serve them a latte, give them a scone. I do a whole slideshow through ProSelect. They see all 30 images on the large screen in the lounge area. And I'll also stop and say, when I first started, I certainly did not have a large screen in the lounge area of a studio. I was doing this out of the coffee shop down the street. So this can be done anywhere. You just bring your laptop and have a software similar to ProSelect. But I'll show her the images and then we narrow them down to her favorites and she chooses from one of just 3 collections. I used to offer 10 collections, I think was the most that I ever offered. And when I became a mom, I immediately was like, oh my gosh, no wonder everyone's so overwhelmed and gives me that deer in headlight look during the viewing session. I'm really overwhelming them. It's like going to the Cheesecake Factory and there's 50 pages of menu items. I'm always going to have buyer's remorse because there were too many options to choose from. So I try to make this really simple for them. I try to think like spa-like experience. You know, I've got that Anthropologie candle burning. They've got their latte. They've got the slideshow and a scone in their hand. There's only 30 images to choose from. There's only 3 packages to choose from. And everybody wants digitals nowadays, right? So all of my packages include some form of digitals. The smallest is just a handful of digitals. And I always warn moms, this is the DIY package. Hardly anyone ever purchases it because for a small amount more, you could upgrade to the middle package, which includes either 3 frames or a small nursery album. It's a beautiful signature album from Miller's Lab. It's a linen album. It's beautiful. But it's small and it's easy. But the thing is, it provides something tangible for them to, well, they don't walk away with it that day, but 3 weeks later, 2 weeks later, they come by the studio and they pick it up and it's completed. It's finished. It's something that they can hang on their wall that's going to bring a smile to their face every single day that they didn't have to do any homework for. That's my goal. I don't want clients to have to walk away with any homework. I want to do this for them. And I try to over-educate by saying, listen, I'm a mom. Trust me, if I can't hang photos or display photos of my own second child, like you're never going to do this. So
right.
Let me do this for you. So my 2 most popular packages include, frames or an album. And I really try to drive that home that there's nothing wrong with letting someone else do this for you. You know, it's hard as a new mom to accept help sometimes, but this is one area that they absolutely should, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's way easier, I think, to be able to handhold a new mom who has so much on her plate and just new parents in general to be able to be like, honestly, the cost benefit analysis of this is your time and you have 0 time left to be able to sit down and DIY all of it. And for you to just educate them on that in a very simple way. And I think especially because you're a mom, you also have that leg up of being like, I've been there. Yeah. And I know what you're going through and please just like put this in my hands. Like this doesn't need to be something that you do. And they are happy to have you do that. So instead of, you and I have both gone to photography conferences. We both now speak at photography conferences and everyone is terrified of doing this with clients. And if we take it from a serving standpoint, instead of a selling standpoint, it's a lot easier for us to be able to have our clients pay us a little bit more to ease their stress, even, tenfold from what you already did as a baby-led newborn photographer. So I love your approach to newborn photography. I think it's genius. And Jenni, my last question here that'll kind of wrap this up is, income-wise, people I know are terrified of stopping weddings because they are a higher ticket price item. And it's, easier to like generate a decent amount of, an annual income. And I know people are like, I don't want to go from, say, a $3,000 wedding to a $400 session. How do I make up the difference? I don't want to have to do like 10 sessions to make up the difference. So I know that this has been a pivotal way for you to be able to bridge that gap. So could you just offer a little suggestion for people that are maybe in that position?
Yeah. So I'm a math nerd. So it really just came down to numbers for me. I had to take the emotional side of it out and say that, pricing is just numbers and numbers don't lie. So if I were to make up, I was at a point in my career where I was taking in $5,000 from every wedding. And I knew that I needed to keep making the same amount of income, if not more. But I wanted to be home on the weekends. So, the cliche, I wanted to work less and make more. So I figured out that I couldn't do my $200 newborn sessions anymore. I couldn't do those turn and burn sessions. So I really had to figure out how many more I was going to have to do at which price point, and who are those people that can, that value it and can also afford that type of investment. And that's when I had to really get in the heads of my dream clients and my target audience and figure out who they are, how they're influenced, how they make their decisions, where they hang out. And I had to start, co-marketing with businesses that were already successfully serving my dream clients. I had to get ahead of the game. I had to meet those clients where they were, where they naturally are hanging out, when they're first finding out that they're expecting. And I had to get ahead of them, really. So that's how I did it. And I'll be totally honest and transparent. I didn't lose any money at all from leaving the wedding industry to entering the newborn world. And I actually make more now, and I do work less.
That's awesome. And it's good to be truthful for people so that you can be like, no, this is a reality. Like, don't let whatever you're like objections that you have in your head like stop you from doing something where you can work less and make more money. So that's awesome.
One more thing about that is weddings, keep in mind, that you're there for anywhere from 6 to, depending on your packages, maybe 6 to 10 hours, plus all the hours of post-production editing. And in my opinion, I always felt like I got hit by a bus afterwards, but and it was fun. Don't get me wrong. Like, I loved photographing weddings. I really loved my clients, and I'm lucky that a lot of them have had babies and come back to me, and I still get to see them now. But, there's so many hours. Again, if it's just math, if you do, if you're charging $5,000 for a wedding divided by, however many hours you put into that wedding, shooting it and editing it, you can do newborn sessions at a higher price point in a much, much shorter period of time. So if it's a 2-hour session for a newborn and you're charging $2,000, you only have to do a couple of those a week, and you're making more than you did as a wedding photographer. So something to think about. I'm not encouraging you to leave the wedding industry if you're listening right now. I'm just saying, if you want to get out or supplement with newborn photography or even dip your toes in the water, it's doable, you guys.
Ah, love it. You are such a breath of fresh air, and I love, love, love hearing your philosophy on newborn photography. So thank you for sharing all of your very experienced tips with everyone. Jenni, it is the Legal Paige podcast. And while I love talking about all things photography and online business related, I always love talking legal things as well. I can't help it. And everyone kind of knows that I love finishing off these episodes with like legal lessons that we've learned, because while we are turning our passions in hobbies into a business, we, at the end of the day, are business owners, right? So there are liabilities and risks involved with running a business, and obviously having people pay us hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, to do things for them and service them. So what have been 2 big legal lessons that you have learned in your career? And you've been doing this for a while, so I think everyone tuning in, like, listen to what Jenni has to say, because these are some biggies and she's had a lot of experience. So this is either something that's come up time and time again, or something that really affected her and made her a better business owner in the years to come as she was growing her business.
Yeah, sure. Great questions. And I think this is something that's so very important, because I used to look at contracts. I'll be totally honest. I used to look at, legal contracts as a very, very scary thing. And that I was terrified of hitting send and delivering it to a client, asking them to sign something because I felt like I was trying to sneak something past them or whatnot. So when I first started out, I'll be honest, I didn't use contracts and I got burned a couple times. For example, once I photographed a very, very big wedding in Philadelphia, not actually a different wedding than the one I talked about with my newborn in tow, but I was photographing a wedding in Philadelphia for a very well-known person in the community. And there were hundreds and hundreds of guests, and he was a friend of the family. And he said he didn't want to sign a contract. And of course he would never rip me off and, all the things they say. And I just assumed, well, he's a friend of the family. We're good. We're good. And I know he was good for the money. So of course I go and I photograph the wedding. I deliver the images and I send them the invoice and I hear crickets. And so I check up with them and they say, we've had some personal things come up and we just spent so much money on the wedding. It's going to be a little while before we can get you the money. And then I think he wrote me a check for like a quarter of it maybe. And just to kind of buy some time. Long story short, I went after him for over a year and it just got so messy that I ended up eating it. And I just said, this isn't worth it. This is causing problems. He unfortunately was no longer a family friend because of this. And it wasn't worth it, you guys. It's not worth it. A contract, and Paige helped reinforce this, the day I met you, a contract is really there to protect everyone. It's to make sure that we're all on the same page, no pun intended, to be sure that, we're all like, everyone really understands what's to be expected here. Like, what is going to happen? What does this look like when we work together? What are you going to give me? What are you not going to give me? And, my contract for newborn photography, once I switched over to that side of the business, it used to not be as clear as it should have. It was just, this was before I knew Paige, but it was one of those ones that's provided through a company that probably shouldn't be writing them anyways. So it wasn't covering me as much as it should have. And time again, I would have clients say, but I thought all of the digitals were included in the session fee. You never told me they weren't. And I was like, why does this keep happening? And I finally went through my contract with a fine tooth comb and it wasn't clear what was included in the session fee and what was not. So luckily with the help of Paige, I have like a bulletproof contract now that protects me and my clients. So everyone knows what to expect. But I think it's really, really, really important to have contracts and make sure that everyone understands what's happening.
Totally. I think first things first, like even with your friends, the biggest lesson is always make them sign a contract too. Treat your friends like clients. And I know that we all make that mistake when we first start out as photographers. You made it. I've made it. I have tons of clients that have come to me that have made it. And it's just a reality in our business that we have some like weird guilt or feelings of like, we have to do this for them in a different way. And if anyone is listening and they're newer or they've done that before, don't do it again. And if you've never done it and you're thinking of doing it, don't do it. Always, always, always treat your friends and family like clients because those end up in stickier situations oftentimes than just a regular client legal dispute could be. And then the other thing, Jenni, is for all of you guys tuning in, Jenni and I worked really, really hard on curating and making a template newborn photography contract that could be used universally for all types of newborn photographers. So we have created that. It's in my online shop. And I know that some of it, Jenni has this as part of some of her offerings as well. And the reason that I'm saying this is like, you don't have to, I'm not like selling it, like go purchase it, but I'm saying like, we have had this looked over by not just us, but other newborn photographers as well, and getting their input on how, like every clause in there is ensuring that you are setting the expectations so clear. Because you don't want something to happen, especially with newborn photos. Like that is not something you can redo. It just isn't. And it's not something that you want to create a hassle with parents, new parents that already have a lot on their plate. Like we've talked about this entire episode. And the biggest lesson any photographer could probably tell you is like, get your contract as clear as possible. And you want it to be two-sided. So you want them to have some rights, but for the most part, like you want to have as many rights as possible in that contract because you're the one that they are choosing to hire. Like I just completely, I could go into that. That's going to be a whole nother episode because I've had a lot of issues lately with clients with two-sided or one-sided contracts and what that means, right? But at the end of the day, what Jenni is saying and what I am saying is you want to have it very conspicuous, which means like bold, underlined, clear things. Like you don't get the digital files. If you don't offer them, we're not going to like hide that in the middle of a paragraph in a clause. And so just go through your contracts and make sure that everything that is very like needs to be clear is clear. And if not, like reach out for help. I can help you. Another newborn photographer can help you if you're like, hey, what clauses do you have in there that maybe I don't have? And that's just some suggestions for all of you tuning in and moving forward. I digress. I will stop there. You know me, I can continue to talk about legal stuff. But Jenni, thank you for sharing that. That was really, really helpful and poignant for any photographer, but especially newborn photographers and for you who have had those experiences.
Thank you.
So as we wrap this up, what is like one last big quick tip you would give aspiring newborn photographers or newborn photographers who are currently in business?
Yeah, I think my biggest tip, and I've touched on this already during this podcast, but I think it's really important to find your niche. And that doesn't mean you have to just choose one type of photography that you offer. Like Paige was saying, you offer all types of photography and you're very successful at that. But I think that you should figure out what it is that makes your heart race. If there's a type of photography that you offer, maybe it's extended family sessions or mini sessions or headshots or whatever it is that doesn't make your heart race. And when you go to grab your camera and walk out the door to that session, if you're like, ugh, I don't want to do this, stop offering it. There's no reason. You do not have to feel obligated just because you own a nice camera to be everything to everyone. I'm 100% sure I am not the right photographer for many people. And that's okay because there is another photographer that is the perfect fit for them. So I really encourage every photographer out there in every field of photography to hone in on what it is that makes your heart race. What is it that you can't stop thinking about at night, that you constantly are on Pinterest swooning over other people's images similar to that? And really dive into that head first. Master that style of photography, master the lighting, the editing, the shooting of it, all of that. And then figure out who it is that needs that service, that needs that and wants that and values that type of photography. Maybe it's baby-led newborn posing. Maybe it's boudoir. Maybe it's wedding, whatever that might be. And then, like I said, co-market with other businesses in your area and online that are already successfully serving your dream clients. And then last but not least, and I've said this before, once you find or get that first dream client that truly values what it is that you offer and is willing to invest the big dollars in that type of session with you, treat them like gold. Send them a handwritten thank you card. Send them a birthday card. Send them an anniversary card. Send their kid a birthday card. Send them a Christmas card. Whatever that looks like for you and your business, whatever you're able to do, put the personal touch on it. Put that spin on it because trust me, it goes a long way. And it is the best way once you get that first dream client to become your cheerleader. It is the best form of word of mouth referrals that are trusted by their friends that you can possibly ever get. So I highly suggest, figuring out what it is that you want to do and then really going for it.
You are just a wealth of information, Jenni. And all of that is like, yes, please tell me more. I want to learn from you. And I'm a successful photographer myself. But if any of you are thinking that, Jenni, I know that not only do you have this newborn posing course, that's baby-led natural newborn photography posing, but I know you also hold retreats, which you guys want to vouch for these retreats because I have actually had people come to me after working with Jenni who are growing their business. They can't say enough good things about them. I had a gal in my mastermind that reached out to her and was able to go to a retreat, and it was just phenomenal for her, and she scaled her business. But Jenni, now I know you also have monthly group coaching. Yeah. And so if any of you are everything Jenni is saying is ringing true to me, I want you to reach out to her because she has a really awesome opportunity right now for monthly group coaching where you can get a more one-on-one group coaching experience. I guess that's actually an oxymoron. So it's more of it's more of an intimate coaching experience with a like-minded group of individuals that are very specific in what Jenni does and what they all do, and you can work together. So reach out to Jenni for that. I wanted to plug that because I just think it's the coolest offering right now. And it's really where people are needing help. In-person retreats, I just think there's only so much you can do with online courses. They're really good to start out, right? So like get your posing in line. Myself, I offer like legal online courses, but it's like basic, right? Beginner, like that's what we need to learn to start. But then if you want to scale and you want to grow and you want to make, this business super successful that you have, then you need like a little more. And so I think monthly group coaching is a great first step for people. It's not necessarily the right fit to like jump into a mastermind right away that costs tens of thousands of dollars. So I love that you're offering this. And you guys, Jenni has been doing this for a long time. I'm not trying to date her because she's the coolest 40-year-old that I know. And we can party like nobody else on a cruise ship. I will not go into that story. But I'm saying, Jenni, you guys, she has so much information to give. And she has a lot more experience than people out there who have just been in the industry for a couple of years that are trying to get into education. Like Jenni knows her shit. So please go reach out to her. Jenni, as they need to reach out to you, where can they find you?
I'm most often on Instagram, to be honest with you guys. So it's just at Jenni Maroney. And the link in my bio has everything. So you can find my masterminds in there. You can find my in-person retreats, my new offering, those monthly group coaching calls, and then all of my online courses, everything from pricing for profit, in-person sales to baby-led newborn posing. It's all in there.
Perfect. And you guys, that's Jenni with an I, Jenni, and then Maroney. And again, we're going to link it. So you will have no problem finding her. Jenni, thank you so much for your time today. It was a true joy to have you on.
Well, thank you, Paige. This was so great.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Legal Paige podcast. See, I told you being legally legit isn't so scary. Be sure to visit thelegalpage.com for all show notes. And it would be super awesome if you could head over to iTunes and leave a review. Last but not least, don't forget to join my free Facebook group for unlimited legal and biz Q&A. Chat soon, Legal Pagers.